Have you played The Outer Worlds 2? Because I have, and as a big fan of the first game with all its mad science charm and tales of outer space, I was very curious to see how the sequel would differ from the first game. During my time with the game, I was allowed to play the intro sequence, which gave me a good look at character creation, and already there were plenty of notable things that differed from the first game that got me very excited for the role-playing elements of The Outer Worlds 2. And right off the bat, when creating your own personal character, of course, there are a bunch of options to change how your character looks, which was great to see, but I was more intrigued by the actual hard stats and role-playing elements on offer. If you didn't know, your character starts the game as an agent for the Earth Directorate, and the background you choose isn't just for later dialogue choices, but also gives you a reason as to why you decided to join the Earth Directorate in the first place, which to me felt like a nice bit of world building to make your character feel relevant in universe. And the same can be said for the positive traits that you choose. These obviously have big gameplay implications, but again, they offer a really nice justification to your character's RPing by confirming the way that they conduct themselves as an agent. Nice touch. But things got really interesting when I started to dive into the perks of some of these traits, and one that really stood out to me was this one right here, because the description for it mentions bounties and outlaw status. Now this seems really cool because in the first game we had faction rep as a measure of our standing with the different companies and different groups in the Outer Worlds, but now with a bounty system in play and the opportunity to become an outlaw if we hit a certain threshold, it means that we can be recognized for the various crimes that we commit throughout Arcadia. So if you dreamed of living a rogue's life of unlawful disorder, now you can do just that in the Outer Worlds 2. Or you could be a goody two-shoes, follow the law and just be a bit boring like that. You're cool, mate. Now, it's completely up to you, but you do actually have the choice to take multiple positive traits in Character Creator, but if you do, you'll also need to take a flaw just to balance things out. So instead of earning flaws through your actions in the game, you'll actually just start off with them to help make your character feel even more uniquely crafted from the get-go. And another interesting mechanic that I learned about during character creation is the toxicity mechanic, and this seems to be tied to your use of the medical inhaler, which does make its return in the Outer Worlds 2. So seemingly you can have a level of resistance to the effects of using too many puffs on the inhaler, with less resistance meaning that you may need to cure yourself or something like that with other means if you have to rely on healing yourself too often. So you might need to work on increasing your toxicity threshold if you're the sort of player that likes to use a lot of different buffs in your inhaler. I also noticed that there's now an observation skill that is directly linked to finding hidden objects or subtle behaviors in conversation, which is another new feature that they've added into the game. I really like the thought that this put into my head of, oh, what if I'm missing something while exploring, or even just picking apart deeper story beats purely because my character picks up on some bad vibes off someone while talking to him. Very cool. And now the last bit for Character Creator before we move into the actual game. Now we knew that tactical time dilation would return for the Outer Worlds 2, but now the science skill is the attribute that you'll want to focus on if you want to extend the duration of it. So bear that in mind if you're more of a Max Payne type player. Now from the rip, there's an obvious visual upgrade from the original game, which should come as no surprise to anyone, but the cutscenes in particular are beautiful. The aesthetic of the world is just nailed down and very immersive, and we'll come onto it in a little bit, but there are more of these in-engine cutscenes now too, which often feature multiple characters all at once, which I don't remember being a thing in the original game, so it's quite cool to see characters physically reacting and working with each other on screen at the same time, rather than just having talking heads before we move back into real-time action like in the first game. Now, the absolute biggest change that I noticed immediately during gameplay was the completely redesigned HUD. It looks so much cleaner in my opinion, and everything made sense being where it was. While I don't think the original game's HUD was bad by any means, it was maybe just lacking a few quality of life features that I would have appreciated, kind of like the mini-map. In the middle, we've got our vitals, and the bottom right has our equipment, including things like ammo, tactical time dilation charges, and throwables. If you compare the two, I think you'll agree this is a really welcome change that actually frees up the top of the screen for all of the action, while it actually gives us more info than before. In combat, I have to say the very basic weapons that I did have access to got me pretty keen for what I might come across in the future, because the pistol and the repeater that I used already felt like they had serious punch to them. And I think this is largely down to a very finely tuned audio experience, and the feedback of pulling the trigger felt like the guns had the perfect weight to them. They're punchy, they're satisfying, and I can only imagine how juicy the science weapons are going to be in the late game. speaking of, what was your favourite science weapon in the Outer Worlds? Why don't you let me know in the comments? I'm more of a prismatic hammer kind of guy because, you know, squash 'em, I say. I would have loved to have been able to use some science weapons in this one, but obviously I didn't get to see too many new weapons, but I did get to use a brand new piece of equipment that I think stealth players are just going to be best friends with. The distraction device is a small throwable that will draw patrolling enemies towards it, opening up new paths for you to sneak around it and get the jump on them, which seems like a really good bit of kit to consider if you're of the silent persuasion. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, players who love big, loud booms like me are going to be thrilled to learn that there's a new way to open some locked doors. So yeah, lock-picking skills, they're still a thing, but for some doors, you can also now attempt to open them using the explosive skill, provided that you have a high enough level and the firepower to match. And I think this is a welcome addition, considering I'm absolutely dreadful at playing the sneaky route, and honestly, explosions are just way cooler than fumbling around with bobby pins. Another great quality of life improvement that I'm a fan of is the ability to consume items directly from the world without actually having to pick them up. And I've seen this in a bunch of games now, and every time it's there, I feel like I just draw a wry smile and nod as if to say, I appreciate you game devs, thanks for thinking of me. I mean, my pockets are always too full to be collecting 12 2-hour energy brews, and who really wants to fumble around applying stimulotion in the heat of battle? If it's on the table, let me snack on it then and there. Lovely feature. Something else that I really love seeing in games is the health bars on enemies, and there's now actually a handy indicator that lets you know if your current weapon has enough juice in it to one-shot an enemy. This little skull will appear if your next hit will do them in one go, which again is really helpful for stealth players that are using sneak attacks, or even snipers who are planning the perfect shot. Now, my time with the game was short, so there's just a couple more things that I want to chat about, but if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more of the Outer Worlds 2 from us, as we get closer to launch, make sure you leave a like, drop a comment with what you're interested in, and subscribe for our future videos. So you remember those in-engine cutscenes I talked about earlier? Well, they can pop up at certain mission junctures as well, offering you a chance to talk it out with your companions and decide on how to tackle the next bit of gameplay. In the intro, I could choose between the stealthy bit or the loud route, which was a nice thing to see, kind of giving me more control over what parts of the game that I would enjoy more. I did decide to go stealthy this time, even though it's not my usual playstyle, purely so I could see what was on offer, but for future playthroughs, I'm definitely keen to try out the loud and proud options. Another thing I really appreciated when chatting to companions is that it's now even clearer which dialogue options are the ones that matter. Anytime you make a dialogue decision that will impact the relationship you have with companions or their perception of your character in the future, you'll see a small pop-up indicating that they will indeed remember that. Now, I'm not going to judge if you decide to use that to save scum for the best possible reaction from your companions, but please try to remember there's no romancing in the Outer Worlds 2, so calibrate your enthusiasm for your favourite companions appropriately, because you're not getting that lucky. So there we have it, a small snippet of the game, but plenty to learn from it. We'll also have plenty more news, info, and impressions of the Outer Worlds 2 in the future, so subscribe, ring that bell, and tune in for more from us. Until then, I'll just have to keep dreaming about playing more of the Outer Worlds 2. Bye!